I want you to picture this. It was a random Tuesday night in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, and I was standing in my bedroom with a half-packed suitcase on the bed, throwing in shirts I didn't even care about. My wife Sarah was in the living room on the phone with her mother, which wasn't unusual because she called her mom every time life got heavy. But this time was different. I heard my name slip through the crack in the door, but it wasn't said with anger or frustration like I expected. It was said with a shaky, broken voice that I hadn't heard from her in years. I froze right there in the hallway, my hand still gripping a wrinkled t-shirt, and I listened to something I was never supposed to hear. She was crying. Not the quiet tears she usually hides, but the ugly, gut-wrenching kind that makes your whole body shake. And then she said the words that completely shattered everything. I thought I knew about our marriage. She told her mother, "Mom, I don't want to lose him. I've been pushing him away because I'm terrified that if he really sees all my flaws, all my insecurities, he'll leave me anyway. So I figured if I left first, it wouldn't hurt as much." In that single moment, 6 years of silence, 6 years of cold shoulders and sleeping on opposite sides of the bed, suddenly made a devastating kind of sense. Here is what I realized while I stood there gripping that door frame like my life depended on it. My wife was not cold-hearted. She was not indifferent. She was scared out of her mind. She had built these massive walls around herself because her father walked out when she was a little girl, and she had spent her entire adult life waiting for every man she loved to do the same thing. She was preemptively protecting herself from a pain she already knew too well. And you know what the craziest part was? I was doing the exact same thing. I grew up in a house where emotions were treated like weakness, where my parents never said, "I love you," and never hugged it out after a fight. I learned from a very young age that showing vulnerability meant getting hurt. So I did what so many American men do. I clammed up. I went to work, I paid the bills, I fixed the leaky faucet, and I convinced myself that being a good husband meant being a provider, not being present. I never told Sarah when I was scared. I never admitted that I felt like I wasn't good enough for her. I just let that fear fester inside me until it turned into resentment, and then I projected that resentment onto her. We were both so terrified of being the first one to break that we ended up breaking everything we had built together. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, that's great that you had this movie moment, but what about the lawyer's letter? Because remember, Sarah had already started looking into separation agreements. That letter was sitting right there on the kitchen table, and it was as real as the tears on her face. So when I walked into that living room and sat down next to her, I didn't pretend like everything was suddenly okay. I didn't give her some cheesy speech about love conquering all. I took the phone from her hand, told her mom I'd call back, and then I looked at my wife and said, "I heard everything, and I'm terrified too." For a second, she looked like she wanted to run. But then she saw my eyes, and she saw that I was just as broken as she was. We sat there on that old couch we bought from IKEA 5 years ago, and we cried together. We talked for hours, not about who forgot to take out the trash or who worked too late, but about the deep stuff, the stuff that keeps you up at 3 a.m., the stuff you don't even tell your best friends. And that conversation was the hardest and most honest thing I have ever done in my life. Harder than any business presentation or any college final I ever took. This is where I have to tell you something that might sound uncomfortable, but it is the truth. Most relationships in America today are failing for exactly the same reason ours almost did. We live in a culture that tells us to be independent, to be strong, to not need anyone. We idolize the lone wolf, the person who can handle everything on their own. But marriage is not a solo sport. It is a team sport, and you cannot win if you're playing against each other. Studies have shown that nearly 70% of divorces are initiated by women, and a huge chunk of those are because women feel emotionally disconnected from their partners. They feel unheard, unseen, and unloved. And here is the kicker. Most of those men had no idea their wives were that unhappy, because men and women communicate so differently. Women often process emotions by talking them out. Men, on the other hand, are conditioned from childhood to process by withdrawing and fixing. She wanted to talk. I wanted to fix. Neither of us was speaking the other's language. So we stopped speaking at all. And silence is the most dangerous thing in any relationship because it gives fear and insecurity room to grow. It turns small problems into huge ones. It makes you believe lies about your partner that aren't even true. I want to pause right here and talk about something that a lot of couples don't want to admit. Pride is a marriage killer. I'm not talking about being proud of your spouse or proud of your accomplishments. I'm talking about the kind of pride that refuses to say sorry first. The kind that makes you sleep on the couch instead of walking into the bedroom and saying, I miss you. The kind that makes you scroll through your phone instead of reaching out to hold their hand. That pride nearly destroyed us. I was so worried about looking weak that I made myself emotionally unavailable. I convinced myself that if I showed how much I needed her, she would lose respect for me. But the exact opposite is true. When I finally dropped my guard and told Sarah that I was scared, that I felt like a failure as a husband, that I didn't know how to fix us but I wanted to try, she didn't lose respect for me. She held me tighter than she had in years. She told me that she had been waiting for me to say those exact words for a very long time. See, vulnerability is not weakness. It is the bravest thing you can do in a relationship. It takes guts to look someone in the eye and say, I'm a mess, and I need you to help me hold it together. Now, I want to be crystal clear about something. That night did not fix everything overnight. We still had to deal with the lawyer's letter the next morning. We still had to sit at that kitchen table and decide whether we were going to tear it up or sign it. And let me tell you, that morning was awkward. We had coffee, we had red puffy eyes, and we had a whole lot of silence again. But this time the silence was different. It wasn't heavy with resentment. It was heavy with possibility. She looked at me and said, I still don't know if we can fix this. And I said, me neither. But I know I want to try, and I know I don't want to lose you. We ripped up that letter together, not because we were suddenly in some fairy tale, but because we both decided that giving up was easier than fighting, and we didn't want easy. We wanted each other, so we made a plan. We agreed to go to couples therapy, which was something I used to make fun of. I used to say therapy was for weak people who couldn't handle their own problems. But sitting in that therapist's office 3 days later, I realized I was the weak one for being too scared to ask for help in the first place. Let me fast forward a few months for you, because I think the ending of this story is just as important as the middle. We didn't become the perfect couple. We still argue. She still leaves her coffee mugs all over the house, and I still forget to put the toilet seat down. But something fundamental changed. We started talking about our feelings like it was a normal thing, not a weird, uncomfortable chore. We started asking each other questions like, how are you really doing today? And actually waiting for an honest answer. We started dating again. Not fancy dinners, but walks around the block, sitting on the porch watching the sunset, driving to get ice cream at 10 p.m. on a Thursday. Those little moments, the ones we used to take for granted, became our lifelines. And here is the thing I want every American watching this to really hear. You do not need a dramatic phone call confession to save your relationship. You just need to start paying attention. You need to notice when your partner is pulling away. You need to ask them what is really going on, even when you are scared of the answer. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than the silence. So here is my final thought, and I hope you really let this sink in. I almost walked away from the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too proud to say, I need you. I almost let fear write the ending of my love story. But I got lucky. I overheard something that woke me up. You might not get that same lucky break. Your partner might not be on the phone with their mom spilling their heart out for you to hear. They might just quietly pack their bags one day and leave, and you will be left wondering what happened. Do not let it get to that point. If you love someone, tell them. If you are scared, tell them. If you are confused, tell them. Do not wait for a miracle. Do not wait for a sign. Be the sign. Be the one who breaks the silence first. Because at the end of the day, love is not about never getting hurt. Love is about getting hurt and choosing to stay anyway. It is about showing up every single day and choosing each other even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. That is what real marriage looks like. That is what real love looks like. And if you are watching this and you are currently sitting in that same silence I was sitting in, please do yourself a favor and reach out. Pick up the phone, walk into the next room, or just send a text that says, I miss you. It might just save everything.